Well, um,
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are on live. Hi, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Good. We are live here on the show. Grant Venerable, our Professional of the Year. Pleasure having you as always. Please introduce yourself to everyone. And then I know we were just about to get started, but we weren't on yet. So go ahead.
I think the best way to, are you on yet?
Oh, yeah, we are here. We are live. I'm on.
We're live.
Yes.
I want to start focusing on my 4-volume ebook memoir,
Sure.
so that it gives us more reference to go on for me to talk about here that I think is particularly important today, particularly in big events across the country over the last week,
Okay.
and to let our listeners and our viewers know that I'm not worried. In fact, I reached a place of contentment and of being at ease. That is, and all is well. Well, there's a lot of background to that. How can I do? How can I adjust myself to live in any environment or situation, no matter how chaotic or uncertain it seems? So I thought I would start with the beginning of the preface of volume 3. And so I'm going to go look at that. I won't see you for a few minutes, but I'm just going to go look at this, my notes here, and then I'll come back on my own screen. And I'm starting with the words. As an entering college student at UCLA in 1960, I found myself happily facing a rapidly evolving ability to think simultaneously on different mental planes. I began to envision strategic pathways to a future in physics, nuclear science, molecular art, and even becoming a college professor. Without my knowing it, I was also on course for adventures and destinies in the distant future, not then on my radar screen. As an 18-year-old, I did not imagine ever becoming the provost and chief academic officer of one of the nation's oldest universities, but I quickly learned that a major in chemistry would provide a great access channel to my interests in atomic and molecular physics that would prove as valid for me as my initial major in physics. But it was also valuable for other interests, other majors, other endeavors, particularly for business management, and working later in Silicon Valley industry. But it was really, I was training myself through my electives to be able to grasp universal ideas and apply them to a number of areas. So I left UCLA in 1965, graduating with a bachelor's in chemistry. And then I went to the University of Chicago for nearly 5 years to get a PhD in physical chemistry and chemical physics. But when I got finished, I began to experience doubts about where I was headed. Now, I think that's a universal experience today. Doubts. Everyone has doubts about where they're headed, about where we're headed as a country. And I was overtaken by anxieties that there had to be more to life than earning a doctoral diploma. I simply could not see in any case. I could not possess the broader perspective of what I had achieved, as that could only come with many years of lived experience. Well, that was really the start of my career. Uh, I became frustrated, even depressed, not seeing what more was beyond the inescapable shadow of what many of us call mother culture, namely society's tribal expectations in the form of emotional programs for happiness. And happiness would go by the rules of society, the rules of the game of meeting certain tribal expectations, getting a good job. Good, good suggestion. Uh, settling down in a marriage, probably a marriage. Raising a family, probably having children and raising a family. And finally, retiring after 30 or 40 years to the good life of well earned leisure. In that order, I began to receive daily reminders of the first expectations from well meaning family members, friends, and my own culturally conditioned beliefs that had taken root over the years in my socially constructed ego self. Well, life began to really happen in my first job teaching high school because I wasn't able to find a job teaching college. We had a terrible recession back around 1971. And I never imagined that the resolution to my crisis of what's next would be linked to a long journey home to my authentic who am I self. Among other events, the world would commence with an unexpected 7-year collaboration. My world would not commence until this 7-year collaboration with this amazing mathematician named Terry. And Terry is the mother of Jubal, which I talked about last week. Jubal is the name of a little equation that she discovered that connects time space with physical space. I won't go into any details, but by not understanding Jubal, the society, modern society, has a difficult time surviving and making sense of things because it says we live in a universe of complements. And one complement has to do with uncertainty and let's see, uncertainty, and then another has to do with unity and what creates unity. And what creates unity is what we call diversity. Well, you've heard of a university. Uni means one, and verse from the Latin means turning as. So a university or a universe is that which turns as one unity. But then you have the complement of that, namely diversity, turning across from. And the across from are these complements that push our lives or pull our lives. So it's this push-pull effect that's going on all the time. Because if we lose control of the push to unify our lives and how it balances with the pull of society and external things upon our lives, without which we would not have all the resources to unify our lives. Now, Jill, let's pause for a few seconds to let that sink in. And did you follow all of that?
Let it sink in. Yes, it's sinking in.
Okay. That's what's happening now. The push has come out of balance with the pull. And migrations and people who immigrate, which is practically all of our ancestors in this country, have lost control of that ability of the push and the pull. And upon that challenge sat my life. This mathematician named Terry Braithwaite was a high school teacher of mathematics, extraordinarily talented. she was married to a man named Walter Hutcherson back in the 1950s. They both taught mathematics at Fremont High School in Los Angeles. They were both excellent math teachers, but Hutch was also the swim coach at Fremont High School and at 28th Street YMCA in Los Angeles. Well, my dad sent us three children over there to learn to swim.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as we could swim, Hutch put us on his swim team. We were one of the first little, I'll say, colored Afro-American swim teams in the nation that swam in prep competitions in our regions. And so that really was like the platform from which I came and developed all of my thinking processes, including my processes that led me into Silicon Valley industry by the 1980s.
Okay.
Now, I'd like to focus on one of the things that I'm really getting quite worked up about, very excited about, is that the uncertainties. And I think that's really plaguing everybody now. But there is one principle that we have not learned because schools don't teach it, and it's not even learned at the graduate level by scientists and engineers so that they can apply it to the societal level, is a principle. I've mentioned it a couple of times, but now, having read an article about a week ago about the Air India crash of the Boeing 287 so-called Dreamliner, that was last summer, not that long ago. And there was nothing really on the black boxes that was able to quickly inform the investigators what happened. Well, what happened is what I thought happened. But when I heard this broadcast online about it, I'm sure I knew what happened.
Yeah.
And it said that what they did find out factually was that the control systems, the very high-tech control systems, which was the very thing designed to prevent the plane going out of control, they found that the control systems thought that the plane was still on the ground. It was not in the air. So being on the ground, it remembered it didn't really need any fuel, so it shut down the engines because it thought it was on the ground. And that sounds strange. And that meant because the plane was not on the ground, it was several hundred feet up in the air already. And when the engines were turned off, the plane plunged to the earth, where its super Silicon Valley miraculous control systems thought it was on the ground. So that really still doesn't give you the answer. The answer doesn't come until you have this understanding of Jubal and the push-pull in life. And it also goes back to events long ago, namely more than 200 years ago, 300 years ago, something called the Industrial Revolution occurred.
Yeah.
That began with really the discovery of the steam engine. And then we got more and more advanced inventions. And the steam engine ran off of coal and wood. And it really illustrated the needs of all technology. You have a very complex technological system, whether it was a steam engine or a Boeing 787, the same problem is required to be solved. Well, In the 1840s and 50s, they got steam engines running on rails to get a train going up to 25 miles per hour. That was astonishing. You no longer were limited to like 8 miles an hour on a horse or a horse carriage. And the steam engine could get you going at a reckless speed of 25 miles an hour. It scared the horses. It scared people. That was much too fast for our brains to adjust to. But it did introduce to people that understood the basics of system science in America and in Europe, that in order to control a new technology that is operating much, much faster than what you're used to, you had to build control systems to handle the increased speed. That meant more sophisticated signaling systems.
Yeah.
It meant more resources that had to be devoted to the construction and design of the technology that you're trying to control. I didn't really hear that idea until an unplanned visit out and visiting economics friends in Virginia back in the 1980s. So this would have been like over 30 years ago,
Yeah.
maybe 40 years ago. And I decided, since I was on the campus of George Mason University in the Virginia state system, I should stick my nose in a few classrooms and hear what some of the professors were saying.
Yeah.
And I listened. I was in this classroom, a big lecture hall with all 150 seats in it. And this professor, who was one of the top people in systems engineering, was teaching some amazing things. And I looked around the room at all these beautiful youngsters, but they really didn't appreciate what they were getting from this older professor. I'm trying to remember his name, but it doesn't come to me right now. But I did have lunch with him after the lecture. And what I'm saying now about a control system is what he talked about on my visit to that lecture hall. What the Boeing aircraft did not have was an adequate control system to handle the speed of the aircraft and the safety of the aircraft. So that comes up. I've got to go look at a little page here that, let's see if I can find what I was looking for. Be just a moment here. I decided to look up something that I hadn't done before. And I went on the search engine. I don't know if it was Google, but it was some good search engine. And the search engine, I gave it a question. I think I'm on it now.
All right, go for
And
it.
that question was, what does Boltzmann's law,
I don't
this
know
is
what that one is.
Stefan Boltzmann's law, what does it tell us about the outcome of adding advanced design specifications such as speed, range, fuel consumption, safety controls to passenger jet aircraft? And I wanted to see what the artificial intelligence on my computer would tell me. And I got a really fairly decent answer.
Yeah.
And it started by telling me to analyze how Boltzmann's law informs the consequences of adding advanced features such as speed, range, and safety controls to passenger jet
Wow.
aircraft. We must first clarify which Boltzmann's law is relevant. Well, there's really only one. There's the man that invented it, and that was Ludwig Boltzmann, but it was later modified by James Clerk Maxwell for thermodynamics. But Boltzmann's original, Stephen Boltzmann's law, was based upon statistical mechanics, and it was based upon the states in which a technical system or any other system, it could be a biological system or an organizational system, but it's states of existence. So it goes down to explain that it's a simple equation, and it has it's the probability of the states of a system is equal to the Boltzmann constant times the logarithm of the number of existent states of the system. Now that sounds, that sounds pretty technical, but let me break it down for you.
Go ahead.
It goes into, the implications for an aircraft. And it had to do some pretty abstract thinking. And I wasn't sure if it was going to give me that, but that's what the artificial intelligence, this large, what they call it, large memory. It says we can abstract the meanings of the Boltzmann terms to these specifications for an aircraft. Like we could abstract it to cost, complexity, risk of implementing a certain feature of the system has, and the exponential factor here indicates that high cost, high complexity states are exponentially less probable or more difficult to achieve without forcing additional resources or compromising other constraints. Well, that goes right back to the steam engine. What did they have to do to keep those steam babies under control? They had to design a way for the firemen to get shovel coal or take wood out of the coal car and shove it into the burner of the steam engine, and so it could heat the water and make steam. The same principle holds with an advanced jet aircraft carrying 200, 300 passengers.
Yeah.
And the implications.
Mm-hmm.
So increasing top speed generally means it requires stronger engines, more fuel, lighter materials, and sophisticated aerodynamics, the way the wings are designed, the body's designed. And then each increment in speed corresponds to an exponential energy demand in terms of design effort, structural stress, and fuel consumption. Now, this is what everybody in Silicon Valley should be focused on, and the aircraft industry and the rocket industry. But I've had to conclude that not everyone who are the engineers and the scientists were trained to think in that more abstract way, how to think about society's needs and how the physical technology was going to meet those needs.
Got it. Wow.
Now,
Well, also, I want to
I
open up the
saw
phone
that.
lines in case somebody wants to comment on the 631-307-4010, 631-307-4010, okay? Give us a call if you're listening. Great
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, I've realized where we are this week in American society, there's been a lot of changes taking place, indicating bigger changes taking place behind the scenes.
Yeah,
I'm talking about social, political, economic changes. And it relates directly to talking about this Boeing aircraft or any other aircraft. In that, what all of my work in the going through teaching chemistry, working in Silicon Valley industry has really trained my mind the way that engineers are training artificially intelligent softwares and these large memory systems. And there's prerequisites to that. And I realized my brain has those prerequisites. So even out of UCLA, I was applying the principles of chemistry to social problems. How does Le Chatelier's principle that everybody learns in high school chemistry, how does it apply to society's problems? And sometime back on one of the podcasts I mentioned, Murphy's Law. We're in the throes of Murphy's Law right now in the society, which is Boltzmann's law expressed in a simpler form that says, if there's a chance that something will go wrong in the system, it will. Murphy's Law is really working big time. It's working overtime right this minute. It's working at our three branches of government. One branch has decided it wants to come out of balance with the other two branches, the legislative and the judicial. Those branches were carefully implemented over the last 250 years or more. The reality that's developed is that they have to stay in balance with all their pushes and their pulls. One branch pulls on another and pushes on another. And so it means there has to be exacting leadership so that the thing doesn't fly apart and get out of balance. But now, as I said, the executive wants to dictate what the Constitution has said is the legislator's role, and that it is the judicial role to make sure it all stays in balance. And when that comes out of balance, I don't care how much a leader or leadership says, oh, I'm going to get you an apple pie and all the steaks in the world and the luxury homes that you could ever want. I'll solve all of your problems. Just follow me and let me take over what the legislature is supposed to do and the judiciary is supposed to do. And guess what we get? We get all of the uncertainty we now have.
So much uncertainty. My goodness.
I mean, sometime, in the next week or so, people are getting Social Security checks, or they hope they are. This is one people who thinks he's going to get one.
Mm-hmm.
But what it means now, getting back to the seriousness of my humor. If you go messing with a system that's been around 200 years, you're probably going to throw it out of balance, and it may not last for another day or week or month or year. And yet there's people inside the operation that weren't even elected to run the executive branch. They're the ones calling the shots.
Ah.
And more, they're being revealed who they are. So, just like voting has become a real stickler. How do we keep people from voting who are likely to vote for the people we don't want in office? And how do we set it up so the people we want to be voting get to be in office? How do we maneuver the system for that to happen? I don't think I've said anything that important yet so far on this broadcast, but I just did. In fact,
you're funny.
The word vote rhymes with one of the biggest culprits behind the whole redesign process that we're going into. And there's
Wow.
another one, I haven't mentioned his name or what it rhymes with, but people are getting more aware of what the names are. And they're beginning to push. Remember, I said push and pull at the start here? They're beginning to push back, become the environment that's pushing back on a setup that has pushed upon the human environment. Now, I don't say another thing. I said
Aw.
it all. I have said the essence of the thing.
So
And
true.
that's what the memoir is about. And I can say that now. And volume 3
Hmm.
talks about how my life came out of balance. And I'm not blaming myself entirely, but I was part of the process. So when I finished graduate school, the economy was out of balance. We were having a recession. And we went from 1 year in the science and engineering profession where you could apply for like 200 open, you could apply for jobs. I
Yeah.
mean, 200, there were 200 jobs in chemistry, teaching chemistry in 1970. And my classmates who got out a year ahead of me in 1969 got jobs. They applied with letters and they got 5 offers, 6 offers. These were great, smart youngsters who got these. But by the time I finished in with my postdoc, I applied for 200 positions and got no offers at all.
Mm-hmm.
I said,
Ah,
what is that about? It's
right.
about a recession. We were in the middle of a recession. And that recession, uh, I mean, it improved a little, but we've never come back to the golden days of milk and honey that we had in the 1960s and before that. So I had to learn how to survive. I had to use my creative mind to figure out, okay, so I got a high school job, but I only got that because I was teaching part-time at Cal State University, Los Angeles. The chair of the Department of Chemistry was someone I had known for years. He had come there from Howard University and became the new chair of chemistry. Dr. Ferguson was, I think, by that time about 55 years of age, very smart man. And he asked me,
Yeah.
well, did you find a job yet? Did you get any letters? And I said, no, Dr. Ferguson. And he said, okay, well, keep looking. So the next week, I was teaching in the summer session in 1971.
Yeah.
And he said the next week, there's a guy that was looking for high school teachers. You want to
Wow.
teach high school? They got high school teachers.
Mm-hmm.
They've got positions right here in Los Angeles. And I said, well, I don't want to teach high school.
Mm-hmm.
I want to teach college. And he's okay. Next week, he asked me again, you find a job? I said, no. He said, are you interested in teaching high school?
Mm-hmm.
No. But the long and short of that story is that Dr. Ferguson realized I was a stubborn young man
Yeah.
and that there wasn't going to be any college jobs showing up and that I'd better take a high school job while I could get one. So
Oh,
he told,
yeah.
I might have said this before, but he told the gentleman who was looking for teachers to recommend to principals out in the LA area.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he says, well, anyway, that gentleman called me up and that gentleman said, Jill, I don't remember if I said this to you but earlier, but he said, well, Dr. Ferguson said you're interested in a job teaching high school. And I said, well, I'm glad that I was open to that possibility, because that was one of the lessons I had to learn in life. All of the things I may want to have don't come along at the time that I think I want to be available. So I did take that job teaching at this place called Duarte High School in the eastern part of Los Angeles County. And I learned to teach from being in that classroom. And it was the students, the youngsters themselves, 16, 17-year-olds who were taking high school chemistry. There were 15-year-olds taking high school biology.
Wow.
I was also teaching that.
15.
But it was during that year that I really understood the art of teaching and the
Mm-hmm.
science of teaching. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, I went with the physics teacher to take about 12 of the kids taking physics in the physics club on a spring break lasting a week up on Morro Bay on the central coast of California. And
Mm-hmm.
three of us drove them up there in our automobiles.
Yep.
And the first day I was there, I told my fellow teachers who were the other chaperones that I'm going to drive in to this California Polytechnic State University campus, which
Wow.
is 12 miles up the highway. And I did. And that's where I met the chairman of chemistry. And he said, well, we don't have any openings right now, but tell you what I'm going to recommend. I'm going to recommend that you fill out an application so at least it will be on file whenever we have an opening. And I'm going to take you to lunch in the faculty dining room. And so you could meet a few of the other uh, people teaching chemistry. And I had lunch with 6 of them at this big, lovely round table. It was a lovely lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a nice, lovely conversation about things we were interested in chemistry and some of their challenges in running the department. And then we said goodbye, and I went back to the Morro Bay State Park and enjoyed the rest of the spring break. Well, 3 weeks later, I got a phone call from the chairman of the Cal Poly department who said, well, we had a sudden resignation by one of our faculty members, and it's in your field in inorganic and physical chemistry. Are you still interested? And I said, well, yes, I would be. So what they did was they offered me a position, and ultimately we worked out an agreement and for salary and all that. And that's where I went. And I was there for 6 years.
Wow.
Um, how that happened taught me a lot about how life works, particularly when it's not working the way you're expecting or thinking. But that led me to another position, oh, maybe 7 years later, in another campus, oh, only about 170 miles north of there. And I already told that story a few times ago, and I learned even more. And that was when I thought that would be the perfect job, but it wasn't. And it led to the next job, but that took a few years to materialize. So I was thrown into the life reality called uncertainty and learning how to live by your own wits rather than being overly dependent upon things already in place or things
Mm-hmm.
working normally, working as they're expected to work. And so ever since then, I've been able to work in terms of what are the conditions of the moment. I even have those now, right now. And I'm retired, long retired, but I have other things to do. I have other books to write. I have other podcasts to do. I have places to go. And it's a matter of being able to be flexible enough to find those opportunities. So now I'm on the desert, and the desert is teaching me things that I've never learned by not living on a desert. So where does that take us now? Does anything come up for you, Jill? Anything you want me to reiterate?
You are, but what I don't have a concept of, and I think our listeners might not, is that your memoirs, right? So what we're talking about, a lot of it. Now, this is part of what's in your memoirs.
The memoir covers the whole piece
Got it. So we're getting
of
snippets and
all of my
mm-hmm.
years before 5 years ago. And the memoir answers questions that are already arising in people's minds that say, well, he must be special or something, and I'm not.
Yeah.
I've learned special ways to pursue goals, and
Mm-hmm.
that's made the big difference. I was challenged by faculty when I was a provost. Provost is another
Yeah.
name for vice president for academic affairs.
Thank you for
And the
clarifying that. Mm-hmm.
provost is like the principal of the high school,
Yeah.
except it's at the college level. And as I was queuing in faculty colleagues, my expectations of how a university operates to reach the highest levels of excellence in teaching, research, and service to human society, they would say, well, but you went to great schools and you had a great family. Your father was smart. You're smart. You're smarter than we are. And your students are probably smarter than our students. And all that was just, it was an excuse. I was sharing where I came from in terms of my upbringing, my ancestry, and things that ancestors learned that were passed along. And because my ancestors grew up with certain handicaps, and yes, at the time, slavery was a little bit of a handicap for a lot of people, but many people learned how to survive that, live with that unusual circumstance, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't forever. Yes, it wasn't always fun. It
Oh
wasn't
my
always
gosh.
great. It
But
was at times cruel, but you learn how to live with that. You learn how to get around cruelty or whatever are the challenges. You know how to go jump over it, go under it, go around it, or make it disappear. That is probably the toughest thing for anybody to master in this life
yeah.
because it seems like, oh, that's impossible. So, hence again, that's why I wrote the memoir because
Yay.
it shows
Got it.
how things can show up without your even expecting them. But you have to raise your mind, develop your mind to live in a certain way.
So is
You
it like
can't,
mindset? Are we talking about people can really conquer, like, people do positive affirmations, people do vision boards, people do, I mean, there's something to be said. And as a doctor, and a
yes,
chemist, and
yes.
so really manifesting is but basically what we're saying. It's possible to
Thank
bring the
you.
abundance, right? Would you say, is that the terminology I'm looking for?
Thank you.
It's,
Thank you, Jill. Thank
okay.
you. You understand.
All right,
But it's
cool.
about it's about excluding fear from our lives, excluding it from our thoughts, excluding it from our brains. But we have an entertainment media and a news media that keeps pushing things into our awareness if we turn it on, switch on the devices that bring it, and it causes despair. It says, well, I can remember a situation that is so handicapped it can't deal with that. But it's a ticket to stay handicapped, is what it is. And that was probably my most important lesson teaching chemistry or cultural studies is excluding fear from our existence and show how the subject matter, how you learn to reason in figuring out a molecular structure that lets you apply that to your everyday life, to your society. It should be required education for people who are governors, senators, representatives, judges, lawyers, and everybody else. It's not so much the topical content that you're trying to learn, it's the mental processes that you learn by dealing with the topical content. Otherwise, down south, they have a saying. It's called, otherwise, you're stuck in worrying about who shot Willie. It's one of the funniest things I ever heard. Since when people get so frustrated and worried and despairing that nothing will work anymore, someone will say, well, stop worrying about who shot Willie. You're working with the weeds. Get off the level of the weeds. Get at the level of the mountaintops where the inspiration and the processes live at the mountaintops. And in the deserts where I am now, which we have very interesting mountaintops here now, we've kind of gotten in some really uncharted territory. And that's what the memoir is about. It recharts our territory of life.
Well, I feel, yeah, I feel like we can all have the abundance and things that we want. And let me just ask, where can we find this memoir? When are you actually releasing it, and
Oh,
where?
okay. Well,
Yeah.
if you, I'm sure you get to an internet, go online to, you can go to Amazon, you can go to Barnes and Nobles, you can go to Apple websites and look up Grant Venerable, author of Footprints in the Chaotic Unknown. That's where we live today, in a very chaotic unknown. And it scares people to death, or it seems to. And so they go looking for a savior. Go to your church for that. But out in society and in your own life, you have to go into your creative intelligence where you get above fear and into a clear picture of your goals.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been going to church. I still go to church. It's been very helpful for me,
Yeah.
but it keeps my consciousness at a very high level of inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And the introduction in volume 1 tells me more about it, which we talked about last time about brainwaves. It's about controlling the frequency of your brain vibration. If you stay all the time at our beta vibration, and look that up online, look up
Okay.
the meaning of beta waves, alpha waves, theta waves, and delta waves. And if you can manage to stay a lot of time in
Mm-hmm.
theta, I mean, go have a good, run regularly, get exercising, do yoga. That's all in the introduction to volume 1. All those things that you can do are there. Go paint, learn art, do music, enjoy drama, go to the theater, go to legitimate theater, cinematic theater. All those things that keep the brain in the most creative place. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what the book is about. And I mentioned about how I fell into Delta at the swimming pool after a vigorous swim 2 weeks ago and a beautiful sunset at the top of where I live and in this near the Joshua Tree National Monument. And I realized I had fallen into the Delta state, trying to describe an incident, not an incident, but why my family history did what it did and turned out to what it would be. And I couldn't think of sentences because my ego state had disappeared, it was dissolved. And I was just babbling away. I couldn't put together sentences, but it was preparing me for being in my beta state the next few days of realizing, oh, now I understand some things that have happened before in life and that I succeeded with in life.
And there's something to be said for as we get older, all our experience, our age, our wiseness. And, I've heard this from my elders many years ago, and now I'm moving up the ranks. You're moving up the ranks. And it's just like, I wish I knew now what I knew then. Such a cliche, but isn't it true? It's just like time really makes us wiser, bolder. I wish we could be born that way, like Benjamin Button, like in reverse. But
and really, yeah.
Oh gosh. Oh. All right, we still got 5 more minutes, Grant.
Okay, well, I love to go back and reread sections of my book because they re-inspire me. And well, each volume is a little different. It tackles a little different phase of life and coming of age. That was like from birth to 27 years of age, 28 years of age, and then going into the mature youth. And giving my observations on what comes when you hit 40.
Yeah.
How females can manage it better than males. It's tough. Males really have to get their act together by 40 because by 48, it's just about done.
It's so true, right? It is. You're right. Yeah.
Females have a few more things going for them.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn. I had to get over some excess male pride, ego. But and that happens for all males in American society.
Yeah.
But the sooner you can get over it, the better it goes.
Oh, so true. Well, what do you have planned for the rest of the week? Tell me the normal side of Grant. Grant as the philosopher,
I'm trying to develop a normal side. That's a good question because my sister, who's the business and real estate brains in the family, found a house for us all to look at so that my brother and sister and I can live in a large place where we can do all of our projects. And so the first step we completed 2 days ago, and my sister took us to look at this house that we found that we're going to make an offer on right here in the desert. And it's only a couple of miles from where I live right now. But that's just step one.
Yeah.
To get our bearings here. And then we already own some land. But the next stage is to build on this land a large place where we can really spread out with our projects and also host retreats there for students and faculty at Caltech, which is where our dad went to college. And so they're very interested, but they're really good at thinking very broadly for really training their students well. So they want to join us in our projects. Lloyd is interested, my brother, in developing how to grow produce and sell it in a farmer's market and grow healthy and train people in healthy, holistic cooking and eating. And my sister has interest in the family heirlooms like jewelry and find things, and so that students can understand what they contain, what kind of chemical stones they contain. Because she had inherited something from one of our great great grandmothers,
Mm-hmm.
who was a Cherokee lady who had one of the fine Cherokee necklaces, with each little bead had some gold dust in it. And she took it over to Caltech, to
Yeah.
the gymnology department. What do you think of this? And they said, we think we have not seen anything like that in 70 or 80 or 90 years, because there's that kind of jewelry is so rare now.
Yeah.
So they analyzed it to see what was in it, and they're further interested in how they can augment their geology program by looking at costume jewelry. It can be very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
And
Grant, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. How can we sum up today's show?
golly, today was to really get down and honest with the real issues, what my training was about, where it led me, how my mind enabled me to apply it
Yeah.
to society, to family life,
Mm-hmm.
and how to move forward. It must be working, because I've lived so long already, and planning to stay around for a while longer. But I think that's one of the keys, and I think that's one of the things people should look at as a criterion. The better you learn education to take care of all of you and your community, the longer you live healthy. Not everyone gets to live a long life. Sometimes we're born with organic problems, and we learn how to deal with those.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had friends who've had children that have had things like cystic fibrosis, and
Yeah.
they weren't expected to live that long,
No.
but they're in their 50s and living well. So that's what learning and education do for us. And part of it is that you learn there's a role for both religion and secular in the pull of life. And you just find the balance. You find the right balance.
Well,
So uh, I guess I'm always doing something different. So that's the constant in my life. And yeah, just even yesterday, I had some great conversations that fed right into this podcast today.
mm-hmm.
So anyway, get the book. It's online. It's on an ebook form. So I haven't got it yet, so that you can buy it in a hard copy, but I'm working on that next. And you can always put it on a mode in your computer where it can give you a narrator
Okay.
who will actually narrate the whole book.
Mm.
And that's really what it really gets fun at that time. So you can take it on a vacation, or put it in the car and listen to it while you're traveling.
Hmm. Well, how can we contact you to find out more?
Well, now I have a different email address. I'll give you that. It's called vinmatrix at outlook.com.
Okay.
VENMATRIX, vinmatrix at outlook, OUTLOOK.com. And also, yeah, that, and then the website is Grant Venerable PhD, all lowercase, um, .com. And that gives you more of a big picture look at what I've done, my existence. There's also some uh, interviews, videotaped interviews on there. One is with history makers. And, So I'm robust on America.
Love it. Well,
It
thank
will
you.
it will work out.
It sure will. Well, thank you again for being
So,
here, Grant. Oh, go ahead.
well,
Finish
thank you,
up.
Jill.
Always a pleasure seeing you. And thank you
Okay.
for inspiring us. Let's make the best of our lives. Let's start
Yeah.
manifesting more. I want to talk more about that next week. All right. Thank you so much, Grant. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for being a professional of the year, as always. We love you. Everyone does,
Okay.
Grant. Bye.
Love you, Jill.
Love you too,
Okay.
honey.
Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.